I never imagined a cleaning lady would risk everything to protect my special daughter. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced in my chest. The world felt as if it was crumbling around me. It started with a scream, piercing through the silence of our quiet suburban street. I rushed to the window, my breath caught in my throat. Outside, shadows danced. And there she was. Maria, the cleaning lady, trembling but standing tall. Her dark, concerned eyes locked onto something or someone. Fear wrapped around my chest like a nasty vine, squeezing tighter with every glance. My daughter, Lucy, played innocently in the yard, blissfully unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Maria had always seemed a little mysterious, her presence a quiet storm. She never spoke of her past. No family stories, no weekend plans. Just the delicate sound of her broom sweeping through our home and a determined glint in her eye whenever she looked at Lucy. A woman with secrets. I found her fascinating and unnerving, a paradox. My throat tightened as I realized the danger had a face. A man loitered by our fence, his intentions hidden beneath an unsettling smirk. I could feel his gaze boring into us, wrapping its icy fingers around my gut. Adrenaline coursed through my veins, urging me to act. I needed to protect Lucy. I felt helpless, tears pooling in my eyes. Maria stepped forward. "Get inside." Her voice was firm. It broke through the fog of my panic. But I could only watch, rooted in place, while she faced the man. The air crackled with tension. I could hear the distant chirping of birds, oblivious to the impending confrontation. Time slowed as I scanned the street. Other neighbors peered out from behind curtains, their faces a mixture of curiosity and dread. A silence wrapped around us like a thick blanket. Then, Maria lunged. She grabbed a nearby garden tool, a small rake, and brandished it like a sword. "Leave her alone." The defiance in her voice cut through me, a spark of hope igniting against the dark. My heart thundered in my ears. Who was this woman who would risk so much for my child? The man faltered, surprise crossing his face. But it was only a moment. The next, he charged forward with a primal yell. My breath hitched. What if Maria got hurt? A million thoughts raced through my mind. Why was she doing this? Was she protecting Lucy for love? An instinct? I could hardly breathe. I should be the one stepping in. But my legs felt like lead. Just then, a horn blared. A car sped down the street, disrupting the tension like a sudden crack of thunder. Confusion erupted. The man hesitated, glancing back. In that split second, Maria lunged again, striking out with the rake. The thud echoed. He stumbled backward, fear finally breaking through his bravado. Just like that, he vanished into the shadows, swallowed whole by the chaos of the moment. That I rushed outside, shock short-circuiting my flow of words. "Maria. Are you okay?" But she was already on her knees, breathing heavily, eyes wide and searching. "Lucy," she gasped, looking to my daughter, who stood frozen, wide-eyed. And just like that, the world shifted again. Who was Maria really? What was her story? A guardian angel or a hidden danger herself? I had to know. I had to understand what I just witnessed. But for now, all I could hear was the sound of my heart pounding, racing, unsettled. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the dust began to settle, I knelt beside Maria, my heart still racing as I assessed the aftermath of what had just unfolded. The weight of fear still lingered in the air, a palpable reminder of the danger that had brushed so closely against us. Lucy began to whimper, her small frame trembling as she took tentative steps towards me. In that moment, I wanted to shield her from everything: the darkness of the world, the mysteries of Maria, and the very history lurking in the shadows. "Maria, are you hurt?" I asked, my voice shaky as I reached out to her. She shook her head, though her eyes remained wide, filled with a mixture of adrenaline and something deeper, something that hinted at a troubled past. "I'm fine," she whispered, though her breath was heavy, betraying the turmoil underneath. "But Lucy, she needs to be okay. We need to get her inside." I turned to my daughter, pulling her into my arms. She was shaking, her small body clinging to me as if I were a lifeline. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe now." I glanced back at Maria, who was slowly getting to her feet, brushing dirt from her jeans, her expression tense and focused. "Let us go inside," I suggested, though part of me feared the unknown specter that still loomed outside our home. Would he return? I felt like a trapped animal, cornered and desperate to find the way out. As we stepped into the house, I noticed a small group of neighbors gathering outside, whispering and pointing. Unlike before, their glances were laced with concern rather than curiosity. I felt a pang of vulnerability, the kind that had been gnawing at me for far too long. I shut the door and took a deep breath. "Mommy, was that man going to hurt us?" Lucy's voice trembled. Her innocence hung in the air, demanding a truth I couldn't yet face. That I knelt down to her level, struggling to hold back tears. "No, my love. He won't hurt you. Maria protected us. She's brave." Maria stood in the corner of the living room, her posture tense as she absorbed the weight of the moment. "You should call the police," she suggested, her voice steady yet strained. That I nodded, feeling like a pendulum swinging between fear and admiration for the woman who had just defended my child. I reached for my phone. The operator's voice on the other end felt foreign as I described the incident, leaving out the details of Maria's heroism, the nuances of fear and protection that had defined the encounter. The dispatcher assured me they would send someone soon. After hanging up, I turned to Maria. "You must have a story," I said, unable to shake the feeling that we had only scratched the surface of who she really was. "Why were you so ready to confront that man?" Her eyes flickered with something almost undefinable. Was it pain, or a flicker of rage? "I've seen too many things in my life," she finally said, her voice low and tense. "You can't turn away when someone is in danger. I want to let fear dictate my actions." My heart ached for her, sensing the weight of her burdens. "You were willing to put yourself in danger for us," I whispered, my gratitude overwhelming. "Why?" She hesitated, the moment stretching like a taut string threatening to snap. "Because someone did that for me once. I couldn't stand by and watch your child be hurt. I couldn't." Lucy watched us, confusion written on her small face, the remnants of her innocence shattered like glass. "Who hurt you?" That simple question hung in the air, heavy with possibilities. The atmosphere shifted, as if we were peering into a reflection of shadows long hidden. I ached to protect my daughter from the darkness, yet I knew we were standing on the precipice of something even deeper, an uncharted territory of trust, fear, and resilience. Before Maria could answer, a loud pounding echoed from the front door. Startled, we all exchanged glances, the tension returning like an unwelcome friend. Who could it be? I wondered aloud. Maria's eyes darted towards the door, and I could see her reflexes shift to something primal, protective, perhaps even defensive. I stepped forward, my heart thundering in my chest once more as I grasped the doorknob. "Stay behind me," I instructed Lucy, my voice trembling as I opened the door cautiously. It swung wide, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness, silhouetted against the fading light. My breath hitched in my throat as recognition flooded through me. It was Daniel, my estranged brother, standing there with an expression that was a mixture of fear and desperation. "Where have you been?" I gasped, caught in the storm of emotions swirling around me. "What are you doing here?" His gaze flickered to Lucy, and then to Maria, a mix of anxiety and urgency flickering in his eyes. "There's something you need to know. Something dangerous is coming," he said, his voice low and trembling, and in that moment, I realized our world was about to shift once again, unraveling in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. As my mind raced to process Daniel's sudden appearance, the air thickened with unspoken fears and memories that had long since settled into silence. The moment felt suspended, as if the very fabric of time strained under the weight of our collective uncertainty. "What do you mean, dangerous?" I asked, my voice a mere whisper as I stepped further into the threshold, instinctively blocking the entrance with my body. Daniel's presence felt like a storm warning, and I wasn't ready to face it without preparation. That he took a staggered breath, his hands trembling at his sides. "It's about the man who was here. He's part of something bigger." I tried to stay away, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. "You need to hear this, Anne." I regarded him with a blend of sorrow and resentment. This was a man I had distanced myself from, the brother whose choices had torn a rift between us. My instinct was to shut him out, to protect Lucy and myself from whatever lurked behind his words. Yet, his urgency sparked an ember of fear deep within me, compelling me to listen. Behind me, I felt Maria shift, a quiet tension radiating from her. She watched Daniel with a scrutiny that sent shivers along my spine. "What exactly are you saying?" she finally asked, her voice steady. "What does he want with this family?" Daniel turned his attention to her, and I noticed the recognition flare between them. It was brief, but it sent a ripple of dread through my veins. "I didn't know you were back in town," he said, tiles of past interactions aligning in a way that made me uneasy. "You shouldn't have gotten involved with them, Maria." "I can't just stand by," she replied, her conviction palpable, igniting a sense of solidarity that had been building since she stepped into our home as a protector. "Look, there's no time to explain. I'm not here to cause trouble," he insisted, the urgency cutting through the tension. "I overheard things, work-related, and now they know about you, about Lucy. I'm worried for both of you." "Worried?" I echoed, as incredulity bubbled inside me. "You've been absent for years, and now you're here talking about worry? We shouldn't even be discussing this with a stranger." His eyes flared with hurt, but there was a depth of sincerity that cut through my skepticism, just enough to leave room for doubt. "I know I've made mistakes, Anne. But you have to understand the threat is real. I came because I care about you and Lucy." "But at what cost?" I snapped, the walls I'd built around my heart rearing high as fear clawed at my insides. "Do you want your life to tear apart again, Daniel?" As I sought the perfect way to push him away, a small voice broke through the heaviness in the room. "Are you going to stay?" Lucy asked, her eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears, the innocent question laced with an adult understanding of abandonment. His gaze softened, and it shook me to my core. "I want to help. I need to help." He stepped closer, his stoic demeanor breaking ever so slightly, drawing nearer to Lucy as if she were a beacon. "I'm sorry being away hurt you, Lou. I'll make it right." "Why should we trust you?" I interjected, ignoring the way my daughter's hopeful expression sent arrows into my heart. "Because I'm trying to warn you." His voice sharpened, desperation lining his features. "There's a reason that man targeted your home. It's connected to more than you realize. They are coming for your past, and the one you thought you could escape." I shook my head, fear rising like bile in my throat. "What do you know?" "I can't explain everything now, too many lives are at stake. But I promise, I'll help you through this. I want to find a way to keep you both safe," he declared, leaning in close enough to bridge the distance I'd encapsulated myself within. Suddenly, the door behind him creaked ominously as it swung open a mere inch. A gust of cold air poured into the room, carrying the scent of something unsettling, uncanny, and vaguely familiar. I turned to see Maria clenching her fists, eyes hardened, her body tensed in preparation for a threat I couldn't yet see. "Did you hear that?" she asked, looking back at my brother, her tone low and cautious. Before anyone could respond, the door burst wide open, revealing the silhouette of a man who draped shadows around him like a heavy cloak. My heart dropped. It was the very man who had threatened our safety hours earlier, a haunting echo of fear returning. "Looks like you've gotten comfortable," he smirked, a twisted grin spreading across his face as he stepped over the threshold. The air turned electric, thick with dread, and I fought the instinct to recoil. Anne! Get Lucy out. Now! Daniel shouted, the fear flooding his voice, raw and fierce. The world shifted again, sliding into chaos as I gripped Lucy's small hand tightly, trying to pull her back as darkness threatened to consume us. The coming storm no longer felt far. It was here, and it was ready to engulf everything we had fought to protect. The chaos unfurled in a whirlwind of panic and confusion. I dragged Lucy backward, my heart racing as I instinctively shielded her with my body. The intruder, an ominous figure, stepped further into the house, his eyes glimmering with malicious intent. Are you really going to put your life on the line for them? The man taunted, his voice laced with mockery. He had the poise of someone who thrived on fear, relishing the power he held in that moment. Get out! I shouted, the command escaping my lips, tinged with a mix of desperation and fury that reverberated throughout the room. Daniel moved with urgency, positioning himself between the man and us, a barrier of brotherly protection that I never thought I would welcome. You don't belong here, he growled, his resolve evident even as fear flickered in his eyes, but the intruder only chuckled. You think just stepping in front of them will make me go away? You really have no idea what you're up against, do you? He took a step forward, and I felt the tremors of dread echo through my bones. Maria stepped closer to the door, her body a shield that mirrored Daniel's. You have no place here. Whatever you think you want, you'll have to go through us. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the undertone of fear that betrayed her determined facade. Lucy clutched my side, her small form trembling as she looked up at me with wide, frightened eyes. I dropped to a knee. Lucy, I need you to be brave, just like we talked about. Can you do that for me? I whispered, forcing a smile despite my own shaking heart. With a small nod, she tightened her grip, squeezing my hand so hard it almost hurt, as though she were trying to anchor me to solid ground. Just then, Daniel's expression shifted, a flicker of realization etching into his features. Look, just leave. You're not going to gain anything from this. This is between me and you. He tried to maintain an air of bravado, but I could see the flickering uncertainty beneath that. I glanced at Maria, who was all fury and unyielding courage, but also fully aware of the risk we faced. As the men exchanged coded threats, I realized they were trapped in a dance of power that we had unwittingly bumbled into. This was no longer just about me or Daniel, it was about Lucy, the very essence of light and innocence that brought warmth to the darkest corners of our lives. The intruder's patience wore thin, and his voice dropped to a sinister whisper that seemed to coil around us like smoke. Time's up, Daniel. You've meddled long enough. There are consequences for sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. I could feel the weight of his words settle ominously in the pit of my stomach. What did that even mean? What were the stakes? Leave us alone, I pleaded, the depth of my fear blossoming. We're not part of your world. We don't want anything to do with it. Too late for that, he sneered, spinning toward us with the fluidity of a predator. You're already entangled, intertwined. And the past? It never really goes away. A chilling wave of realization crashed over me. What had I kept buried? What past was he referring to? A dark history I had desperately tried to forget, something that loomed in the shadows of my consciousness, seemed to bubble to the surface, threatening to spill over. Suddenly, without warning, the man lunged forward. Daniel pushed me back, shielding me and Lucy just as a gust of wind rattled the windows, the force pulling at us. In that moment, the room erupted with fear, adrenaline, and the haunting echo of unfinished business. That I spotted a glimmer of movement from the window, a flicker of reflection that drew my attention. A car rolled into view, its headlights piercing through the darkness, illuminating the figure of someone who seemed to be watching. It was another threat, another twisted piece of this puzzle that tightened around us like a vice. Who's that? I stammered, fighting back another wave of nausea as a sense of entrapment clawed at my chest. Keep Lucy away from the windows, Daniel shouted. The urgency of his tone sent shivers down my spine as I clutched my daughter closer, treating her like the fragile treasure she was. As panic descended, my instincts kicked in. I needed to protect Lucy, and at that moment, I became acutely aware that it wasn't just Daniel's presence that threatened our safety. It was the residual traces of a life I had tried to escape. The terrifying legacy I had woven through years of silence was rising like a storm, eager to reclaim its hold on me, with no clear path ahead. As the shadows converged and danger loomed, I realized that in the kaleidoscope of my fears, something deeper than dread pulsed, an unsettling familiarity I couldn't shake. Something was coming that wasn't just about survival. It was about confronting the darkest corners of our lives while we still had a chance. But in that moment, my trembling heart could only echo one desperate question: what had I left behind, and how far would it reach to consume everything I held dear? The stillness in the room was a pregnant pause, each heartbeat reverberating against the walls like a war drum. As I clutched Lucy, I tasted the familiar metallic tang of fear, but beneath it, an unfamiliar wave of protectiveness surged through me. A thought struck like lightning: I needed a plan, something to counter this chaos, if only to buy us time. The intruder paused, momentarily distracted by the flickers of light dancing outside the window. I seized the opportunity, my voice steady but urgent. "We can talk about this. You don't have to do this," I offered, even as I felt the tremors of dread ripple through my core. He tilted his head, amusement glinting in his eyes. "Talk? After all this time, you think you can talk your way out of it? You really must have forgotten who you're dealing with." His words were a blade, cutting deeper into the fragile hope that had just bloomed. Daniel locked eyes with me, a silent conveyance of his willingness to escalate this confrontation should it mean protecting us. I couldn't let him. Vowing to shield our fragile world, I took a step forward, my body trembling but my resolve hardening. "Please, just leave us alone. We are not part of whatever you think of this mess," I managed, forcing the words out despite the choking fear. The mocking smile on his face faded, his attention drawn back to what lay beyond the window. The car that had only moments ago sparked my fright. It was as if some unseen force compelled him, curiosity beginning to overtake malice. "Seems I'm not the only one with a penchant for surprises," he said, glancing at me with a devilish glee. "The past, after all, has a nasty habit of returning when you least expect it." Just like that. My heart pounded with dread as I turned to see the car door swing open. The sound of footsteps approached, heavy and deliberate. A figure emerged, shrouded by the shadows but undeniably familiar. My breath caught in my throat, a jolt of recognition shot through me like ice water. "What?" I whispered, hardly able to form a coherent thought. A pale silhouette moved toward the light, and as the features detailed themselves in its glow, it felt as though the world around me shifted. The intruder grinned, relishing the unfolding drama. "Guess who's come to play?" For a moment, the air seemed to thicken, and time distorted, stretching into a tense silence that echoed past betrayals, buried hurts, and tangled histories that I had fought tooth and nail to outrun. The figure stepped into the beam of light, and every breath felt like an action of defiance against the revelations threatening to burst forth. It was Clara. My heart raced with a cocktail of emotions, fear and anger entwining as I stared at my estranged sister, the catalyst of much of my past trauma. Clara had once been the brightest star in my sky, cherished and adored, but that had been swallowed by a darkness I couldn't understand. My throat tightened as our eyes locked, an entire history of pain swirling in a single glance before she glimpsed down at Lucy, her expression softening. "Bianca," she breathed, her voice trembling as though every syllable carried an unbearable weight. I didn't want to. The intruder cut her off, the amusement wavering into something sharper. "Isn't this a reunion? The prodigal sister returns to the scene of the crime." "Shut up," I yelled, even as Clara flinched. "This isn't about you." My mind raced, spiraling into chaos. Why now? What did she want? And what would he reveal about our past, our family, that I had tried so desperately to escape? "Clara, you shouldn't be here." My tone was frantic, time slipping away like sand through fingers. I was caught in the crossfire of my sister's past and the looming menace before us. "You need to go, now." But she ignored me, her eyes aflame with urgency. "I came because I had to warn you, Bianca. He's not just a threat to you or Daniel. Everything you've built, everything you love, it's all on the line." "I don't want to hear this." I felt a surge of desperation clawing at my insides, each word clarifying the odds stacked against us. Daniel shifted to the side, visible tension rippling through him as he took stock of Clara's presence. "Why now?" he asked flatly. "What twisted game is this? Don't you see?" Clara's voice rose, desperation threading through it. "This was never just about you all. It's about the choices we made, a darkness I tried to sever ties with, and now he's back to reclaim everything." Suddenly, a rumble of thunder cracked overhead, the storm outside roiling in tandem with the tempest brewing in the room. "Enough with the family reunion," the intruder yelled, his patience at an end. "I've come for what's mine, and I don't play nice." And as he lunged forward, the raw speed of it shocking, my instincts kicked in. Time slowed as I shoved Lucy behind me, locking my eyes with Clara's, silently pleading for her to understand the depth of the danger we faced. "Stay back," I shouted, my voice quavering but fierce behind the walls of fear that threatened to tear me apart. Yet, hope glimmered somewhere, the idea that maybe, just maybe, unearthing these buried truths was the only way to regain control of our future. But now, standing on the precipice where darkness threatened to engulf us, I had to ask myself another question. In confronting the past, would we find the truth we so desperately sought, or were we merely inviting our demons to dance? And just like that, before a single answer could coalesce, I was forced to confront my greatest fear. What if the very blood that ran through our veins was intertwined with this moment of chaos? What if Clara, despite everything, was our only chance at survival, and the truth she held was more than just a weapon? A shocking realization took root. I not only had to protect Lucy, I needed to redefine our family's legacy before it consumed us all. The air felt thick with tension, every heartbeat thrumming against the walls, a living testament to the fragile resonance of choices made and lives entwined. Clara stood before me, her once familiar face a stranger now marred by shadows I had long chosen to forget. The intruder's wild grin cast a dark pall over the room, each word from his mouth an echo of fears past. I took a step back, fully aware of the weight of both memory and consequence that filled the space between us. "Bianca, listen to me," Clara pleaded, her voice cracking under the pressure of urgency. "I did what I had to do." "No." I cut her off, the bitterness spilling out unbidden. "You walked away when we needed you. You let him take our family apart." While I paused, feeling Lucy's small hand clutch mine, drawing strength from the innocent warmth of her touch. I couldn't let Clara's past misdeeds pull me into a vortex of frustration and sorrow. "You don't get to come here and use fear to justify your abandonment." Clara's face twisted in pain, and I almost faltered, but the intruder's derisive laughter sliced through the air, reminding me of the looming threat. "Such sweet sisterly love. But trust me, it doesn't matter who's made what choices. We're merely players in a game far bigger than you can comprehend." "I don't give a damn about your games," I cried, instinctively inching closer to the door, my eyes surveying any escape, any chance to shield Lucy from this madness. "You've lost your chance to dictate our fates. Yet here we are, Bianca," he said, his tone smug with condescension. "You chose to play hero, thinking you could fix everything. But look where it's gotten you. Torn apart and vulnerable." The truth in his words gnawed at me, and for a brief moment, I wavered. My mind swirled with my attempts to patch up the spaces in my life where I'd only found more rubble, replaced hope with blood and fear. Clara's presence threatened to unravel even the smallest semblance of stability I had managed to build for Lucy. "I'm not afraid of you," I said, forcing my voice to remain steady despite the tremors clawing at my resolve. "I know who I am now. And I won't allow you to tear my family apart again." With a flick of his wrist, the intruder shoved a chair backward, the scrape of wood against the floor a harbinger of chaos. "This can end quickly, or we can delve into all the delightful messiness. Your choice." "Bianca." Clara's voice broke through my rising panic. "You have to understand, he's not here for what you think he is." She took a tentative step forward, her presence drawing the intruder's ire, but there was something in her expression, frantic, pleading, that forced me to hesitate. "He's here for something far more dangerous than just revenge on our past." "What do you mean?" I demanded, suddenly cognizant of the layers of darkness shrouding this encounter. Daniel clenched his fists at his sides, defensive yet uncertain. He knows about Lucy, Clara whispered, the terror in her eyes replaced with the stark reality of what was at stake. He wants her for what she might become. We're just obstacles in the way. My breath hitched in my throat as I processed her words. Lucy, my innocent child, threatened by something uncontrollable and insatiable. The very idea felt like a cruel twist of fate. How could I have unwittingly produced a target for someone so deranged? The intruder's gaze sharpened at my stillness, pleasure pouring from him. Ah, there it is, the realization that love alone cannot shield her. You're all wrapped up in your fantasies about protection. He smirked, a vile anticipation dancing in his eyes. But the truth is, blood runs thicker than love, and it all comes back to haunt you eventually. No, I gasped, shaking my head, refusing to entertain the thought that our history, our family, could betray us from within. I won't let you manipulate this. We are stronger together. You can't break us. The room fell silent, the storm outside reverberating like the pounding of a wild heart. Clara stepped forward again, her expression vulnerable yet unwavering. You don't understand what is at stake. We can't fight him without understanding our past. We must confront it together. Her plea sent shivers through me. The demons we ran from could either bind us to our fate or empower us for a retaking. But could I trust Clara? As if reading my thoughts, the intruder's nefarious grin widened. That's right. Face the truth, or perish under its weight. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within me, but it felt tenuous like a delicate flame in a howling wind. Would confronting Clara's past expose us to the darkness that lurked? Was her return a twisted sort of salvation, or were we merely stepping into a deeper abyss? And all at once, a loud crash broke through the veil of my thoughts, jarring me from contemplation. The front door flew open with a force that rattled the walls. My heart dropped as I turned to witness a figure streaking inside, silhouetted against the tempest outside. Get back! They shouted. My breath caught as the familiar outline of a friend burst into the chaos, but it wasn't just any friend. It was Marisol, a woman with a deep loyalty and fierce spirit, someone I'd never expected to find in this crucible of betrayal and fear. Mari. I gasped, not fully understanding whether to feel relief or dread. Bianca. She yelled, urgency clawing at her words. I've been looking everywhere for you. We need to go, now. Her presence tore through the oppressive atmosphere, filling the room with renewed energy, but could it transform our growing dread into salvation? In an instant, I could sense another tide turning, but as fear bloomed alongside that flicker of hope, I faced the harsh truth looming ahead. Would this unexpected intervention save us, or would it trigger an avalanche of revelations we weren't prepared to face? And as uncertainty settled in, I realized one devastating truth: I might be fighting not just for my future, but for memories I thought I had long buried. Marisol rushed to my side, her presence like a sudden breath of fresh air in a room thick with suffocating tension. Bianca, we need to get Lucy out of here. They're not safe, and we don't have time to explain. My heart raced as the intruder locked eyes with Marisol, studying her as if she were a pawn on a board, his gaze assessing her worth, her potential threat. I could feel Clara stiffen beside me, her past mingling with the present danger, an electric tension humming under the surface. Who is this? The intruder asked, irritation creeping into his voice. Just another distraction? Don't underestimate her, I breathed, squeezing Lucy's hand tighter as if that alone could shield her from the storm brewing around us. Marisol was a fighter, fiercely protective and relentless, but would her loyalty be enough to counter the uncertainty that swirled with the darkness in this room? We can't afford to toy with them, Bianca, Marisol said, her voice firm, threading through the chaos. I followed your clouds of smoke. Your intuition is good, but your timing is terrible. Come on, we need to leave now. Not without confronting this, I argued, my voice trembling with the weight of half-formed thoughts. Clara, her past is intertwined with all of this. We can't ignore that. Marisol's eyes flickered to Clara, then back to me, uncertainty clouding her features. I could see the concern etched on her face, the weight of the unknown suffocating the spark of hope she had brought with her. But, deep down in the pit of my stomach, I felt it too, a cave of darkness where fear mingled with an undeniable sense of responsibility. Clara took a cautious step forward. Bianca, you don't know what power he holds, how the things I did, how they might endanger all of us more than you realize. Enough. The intruder bellowed, fists clenched as he could sense the tide shifting. Your sister's hesitation is the real danger here. It just goes to show that she's still shackled by her own missteps. His voice dripped with malice, taunting us with secrets cloaked in shadows. The weight of those words pinned me in place. Clara's abandonment had sent ripples through my life, disrupting everything I had believed. Yet here we stood, intertwined by blood and engulfed in a conflict I had never invited into my life, a sinister collection of decisions born from desperation and fear. I couldn't just defer to the past. I had to protect Lucy first and foremost. My chest tightened as I grappled with the torment in my heart. If betrayal was a curse, what more could come spilling out if we bared our demons? Please, you have to trust me, Clara implored, the desperation clear in her voice. We can end this, together. Enough. The intruder repeated, stepping forward as his eyes flicked about the room. You're running out of time, Bianca. Every moment wasted is another moment that child grows closer to being a pawn in this game, and you know how reckless love can be. Ominous shadows slinked over the corners of my mind. I didn't want to fall into that rabbit hole, fall into despair. But the truth, too, lay in my unyielding grasp of hope. I glanced at Marisol, her steady assurance begin swaying against the competing emotions stirring violently within me. Would confronting the past shed light on our course, or would it merely plunge us deeper into darkness? It's not just about your sister, Marisol cut in, her tone shifting to urgency tinged with warmth. We're not leaving without each other. We're a team, and we don't let go. Especially not when things get tough. In that moment, as her words wrapped around me, I felt the flicker of hope ignite once again. This was not merely about confronting Clara's ghosts, it was about asserting our bond, our shared strength in the face of turmoil. An unexpected kindness rooted in loyalty, wintering against the stark cold of fear. Suddenly, a loud noise resounded, like a thunderclap reverberating through the dim atmosphere. The entire room seemed to shudder as the ground beneath our feet vibrated. My heart raced, a wild thumping against my ribs as I turned to see what had caused the ruckus. From the back door, an unfamiliar group burst in, a cadre of stern strangers, their expressions set with fierce determination. I recognized the emblem emblazoned on their jackets instantly. They were part of the protective agency Clara had once trusted, the very people I had hoped would keep our family secure. Clara. One of the newcomers barked, eyes darting across the room. You'll come with us. Now. But it was then that the intruder lunged forward, knocking Clara aside as panic erupted. Glass shattered, emotions clashed, creating a symphony of chaos. In one swift moment, the world I had struggled to protect shattered like the glass that littered the floor, old wounds cracking open anew as an unexpected clash approached. Run! I screamed, instincts kicking in as the reality of the dire situation wrapped its talons around me. As Clara regained her balance, I could see uncertainty painting her features. But it was more than just fear, it was an understanding dawning on her that we were not merely pawns in someone else's game anymore. And then, amidst the chaos, I caught sight of Lucy. She stood frozen, horror sweeping across her innocent eyes, the weight of our turmoil crashing down upon her small shoulders. My heart shattered anew. Lucy, come! I cried, but all I could do was watch, breathless, as the storm loomed, waiting to consume us all. In that burgeoning moment, a painful realization struck with intensity. The shadows of our past clung to us fiercely, and I was left desperately trying to shield my daughter from the very darkness that birthed her, an inevitable truth I had not yet grasped. The entanglement of love and sacrifice was not just a choice but a looming reckoning. Would we emerge stronger, or would the tempest tear us apart, leaving each fractured piece to navigate the remnants alone? My heart thundered with uncertainty as I stared down the path, knowing that whatever awaited us would alter the very fabric of who we were meant to be. A silence hung in the air, almost mocking in its stillness before the chaos erupted again. I could barely register my next instinct, that visceral urge to protect Lucy, but in that split second, I felt the intensity of betrayal and loyalty warring within me like a tempest of emotions. Clara was stepping toward the doorway, but the intruder, still driven by panic and rage, made another desperate move that sent Clara tumbling back toward us with a shocked gasp. "Bianca, watch out!" Marisol shouted, urgency cracking her voice. I clutched Lucy tighter, shielding her with my body as we backed into the corners of the room, desperately searching for an escape while staying vigilant of the unfolding chaos. The stern newcomers, outnumbered yet resolute, began to form a defensive line, pushing back against the encroaching threat, but their presence only served to heighten the malaise swirling within me. Clara glanced toward the door, the closest point of escape, but a cloud of hesitation settled over her features. What did she see in that moment? A specter of her past mixed with the haunting reality of her present? "Trust them. We need to go now," I urged, my voice barely rising above the din of shouting voices and crashing debris. The atmosphere crackled with remaining tension. I could see it weighing down on Clara's shoulders, a cloak of anguish made heavy by the choices she was yet to make. "I won't leave without understanding what is happening," she shouted back, defiance igniting her spirit. "They Clara." The shout came from one of the agents, a harsh reminder that time was a luxury we no longer possessed. "You don't have the right to choose for everyone." My heart dropped. I felt the struggle of trust pooling within me as I tried to pinpoint the turbulence of Clara's decisions, yet all I saw reflected back was my daughter's wide eyes, consuming the truth around her. All my frantic energy focused back onto Lucy, who stood frozen in despair, torn between her fight or flight instincts. Then, in a surprising act of defiance against the tide of chaos, Lucy broke free from my grasp, taking a step forward. "Mom. We need to help her." Her small voice shattered through the clamor, full of purity and conviction. "Lucy, no." I shouted instinctively, my heart catching in my throat. But it was as if time had slowed, and in that moment, she transformed into a beacon of unexpected bravery and vitality. I had always wanted to protect her, to shield her from the darkness of this world, yet she stood unyielding, casting light upon the shadows that threatened to consume us. "Clara. You need to listen," Lucy called, her persistence an echo of bravery that made my soul ache. In that instant, the layers of love I had created to shield her began to unravel, and I saw her as someone far stronger than I realized, something that the darkness couldn't extinguish. The intruder, now visibly frustrated, turned his glare toward Lucy, his eyes narrowing with simmering rage. "This is not a game for children," he barked, taking a threatening step forward. In that moment, Clara broke through my own whirlwind of fear. She swept forward, not just with intent, but with a fervor born out of urgency. "Stay back," she commanded, her voice trembling with authority, yet laced with deep-seated emotion. It was as if she finally realized just how intertwined our paths had become, how much she had to lose. "There's no time," one of the agents insisted, a sense of desperation breaking the firm lines of their face. An unexpected kindness flickered in their eyes, a hint of understanding shrouded by the chaos. "Trust us, Clara. We'll protect you all." But I could see in Clara's eyes fear, guilt, and a desperate need for redemption swirling together. Questions plagued her, questions that could scatter us or bind us closer together, and suddenly it became clear. Her past wasn't just her burden, it was an encumbrance that threatened our very existence. "Mom. Trust them. Please." Lucy's plea cracked through the air, entrenching me deeper in the struggle of my convictions. This was about more than hiding from danger. It was about confronting the past and embracing the fragile future we all yearned for. The intruder surged forward again in a fit of rage, launching himself toward Clara. I felt my heart lurch as I instinctively prepared to throw myself in front of her, to sacrifice whatever shred of safety I grasped for my own flesh and blood. But just as I moved, I sensed Marisol stepping up, her fierce spirit igniting a fire in the room. But before she could act, a blinding light enveloped us, briefly illuminating the shadows, illuminating everything I feared. An explosion of sound erupted, shaking the very foundation underfoot. Isolation shattered into clarity, the entire world narrowing to one pivotal moment. A raw, visceral urgency danced around us like I had never known. What waited beyond the veil of the present felt much closer than I had dared fathom. As lights flickered and chaos reigned, a new revelation descended upon me. My choices were not merely mine, they were the fate of my daughter, of Clara, of every connection I had fought to weave through cracks that threatened to break us apart, and in that swirling storm, I could sense everything changing. In the haze of smoke and fury, our destinies lay bare, awaiting whatever shape they would take next. But trapped between moments of hope and despair, unforgiving decisions twisted their way into our lives. Go! Clara screamed, her voice tattered yet fierce, demanding we step into an uncertain future. As the inevitability dawned upon us, shattering the air around us, I felt a chilling rush seep into my marrow, a foreboding reminder of choices yet to be made and sacrifices yet to come. My heart raced, but in a different way, fueled by the fierceness of love and the urgency of our reality. The smoke hung like curtain drapes, thick and suffocating, wrapping us in an ominous embrace. As Clara's voice pierced through the haze, calling us to action, I steeled myself. I could feel the weight of inertia pressing heavily against my chest and the frantic drumbeat of my heart reminding me that this was not just about survival, it was about forging a new path for all of us. Mom, we can't just stand here. Lucy's voice, still so small yet infused with unyielding resolution, drew my attention back to her. I touched her arm, a fleeting gesture meant to convey strength, hope, a reminder that despite the chaos, we were together. Not without you, I whispered, fierce protectiveness surging within me. But just as I tried to shield her from the uncertainty growing around us, Clara fell into my line of sight again. The tumult of her emotions played out in her features, fear oscillating with courage, guilt merging with an unexpected light. Without warning, the intruder lunged forward, his face distorted by rage and desperation, eyes flashing like well-forged daggers aimed at anyone who dared stand in his path. I felt the tension snap, like a rubber band stretched too far, and the air hummed with thickening dread. But through this maelstrom, I glimpsed Marisol shifting with surprising swiftness, her body a shield as she threw herself into the path of danger. Not today! She shouted, her voice imbued with an unrelenting bravery that resonated through the chaos. I marveled at her spirit, the way she refused to back down in the face of peril. Even amidst the impending doom, I realized there was beauty in connection, in knowing that amid raging storms, each of us could harness our inner strength. Marisol managed to buy us some precious seconds as the intruder stumbled, knocking a shelf down in his frenzy, books and debris spilling to the ground like broken memories. Clara, now! I screamed, urgency seeping into every word. My heart raced, aware that the brief reprieve granted by Marisol's bravery was slipping through our fingers. I looked at Clara, waiting for her to seize the moment, to grasp the choices that lay ahead, which extended far beyond this room and this nightmarish confrontation, but her gaze shifted, intertwining with the fallen figure of the intruder, a man emboldened by extremity but also clinging to desperation, a reflection of her own struggle with the past she wished to forget. He's just scared, she murmured, almost to herself, brows knitting with compassion in the chaos. Clara, he could hurt us. He isn't the man you think he is. I shouted, panic lacing my voice as Lucy inched closer, instinctively reaching for Clara's hand. I know. Clara retorted, voice rich with urgency but revealing an undercurrent of confusion. But if we understand him, maybe we can find a way through by risking everything? I gasped, the sobering enormity of her words suffocating. He's not worth it. Lucy squeezed Clara's hand tightly, her small fingers trembling. Mom, please let her try. And there it was, the naivety of hope, tangled with the fragile web of bravery woven by my daughter, a hope so pure it seemed to defy the darkness encroaching around us. A moment of connection, born of love, flickered in the air, but shadows whispered around us, reminding us that the choices we made now would ripple through our lives forever. With resolve steeling her spine, Clara moved closer to the intruder, who had momentarily regained his footing. The dynamic shifted, and the chaos that enveloped us felt almost unreal, as if we too were trapped within a turbulent dream. I stepped back, uncertainty gnawing at my insides while apprehension grabbed hold of my heart. Stop! Clara yelled, her voice breaking the oppressive tension. I want to understand. The intensity burned in her eyes, and despite every urge to pull her back into safety, I felt an unexpected surge of pride for her daring spirit, but the intruder's expression remained one of wild desperation, fear fueling his reckless thoughts. In a volatile moment, his arms shot out, poised to strike. You think you can understand me? He demanded, vulnerable yet dangerous, the rippling chaos of his own tortured past hanging like a pendulum between us, and just when I thought time would come crashing down, a flickering light emanated from Lucy. Mom, we're better than him. We have each other, and we can help. Her voice pure, innocent, echoing through the darkness wrapped around my heart, a lifeline amidst the abyss. As the gentle warmth of Lucy's faith crashed into the precarious walls of our nightmare, I felt the universe shift, the gravity of our interconnected lives deepening. Clara stood at the precipice of choice, and everything hung suspended, as if the fabric of reality awaited her next move. I reached out instinctively, the urge to protect colliding with the need to allow Clara her moment of redemption. But the light was fading, and the world felt unsteady. Clara, please, I murmured, desperation bleeding into my words. You don't have to do this alone. We can face this together. Her eyes locked onto mine, 1,000 questions swirling behind those beautiful orbs. The choice before her was monumental, the kind that could either bind us together or shatter our very existence. But just as Clara seemed to reconcile the conflicting emotions warring inside her, the floor beneath us shuddered, a tremor of change crashing through the room like a sudden gale. Before I could comprehend the significance of it all, the door exploded inward with a violent force, revealing a stark silhouette obstructed by the fiery light. Time unraveled at the edges, our fates on the brink of irrevocable transformation crackled with tension in the air. Get down! A voice boomed, laced with authority. In that moment of looming horror, I realized we were standing in the crosshairs of choices yet unmade, specters of our futures jostling against the backdrop of fear and chaos. As I looked at Clara, as she faced the intruder whose past now mingled with her own, I understood there would be no escaping the anguish of decisions yet to come. Would we find salvation in connection, or would we be torn asunder by the weight of our own histories? Time slowed, leaving us teetering on the precarious edge of what felt like both liberation and impending doom. What unfolded next could very well shatter our hopes or bind our hearts forever. The figuring out the truth has never been easy, but standing there, watching Clara take a deep breath, I felt hope igniting against all odds. She was standing tall, unwavering despite the chaos that raged around us. I could see the flicker of determination in her eyes, the moment she chose to confront not just the intruder, but the fears and burdens that had haunted her for far too long. Listen, Clara said, her voice trembling but clearer than before, I know you think you're strong when you threaten us. But strength isn't in power, it's in understanding each other, and I can offer you that if you just stop to listen. As the words escaped her lips, the tension in the room shifted slightly, almost perceptibly, as if the air was letting out the pressure of an unseen force. That moment, the violent storm outside faded, and I could feel Lucy's grip on my hand tightening, her tiny fingers squeezing reassurance into my palm. Maybe Lucy was right. Maybe love did have the power to heal wounds that seemed insurmountable. The intruder's gaze wavered, confusion making way for vulnerability. You think you can understand me? He hissed, his bravado faltering now that Clara challenged him with raw honesty. How can you possibly know what's at stake? You're right, I don't, Clara replied softly. But I know what it's like to be lost, to feel like you've got no choice but to lash out. You're angry, scared, and I get it because I've been there too. But we don't have to hurt each other anymore. Let us set these burdens down together. The storm of emotions between us charged the air, yet the moment felt oddly sacred, a crossroads of past sorrows and possible rebirth. Clara's hand extended toward him, beckoning him to step away from the brink. Let me help you, please. We can work together to change what's broken. I watched, breath caught in my throat, as I realized my sister was rising to the occasion. I never thought she'd have the strength to meet. For what felt like an eternity, we stood there, suspended in a moment of raw openness and hesitant hope. What's broken can be mended, I whispered, feeling the flood of emotions rising within me, longing to connect those fragmented pieces of our past. We just need to face it together as a family. The intruder hesitated now, uncertainty shadowing his hardened expression. But fear still twinkled in his eyes, a desperate fight against the vulnerability Clara had exposed. You don't understand, no, I interrupted, finding my voice stronger than I ever imagined. You don't understand how much power it takes to face the past instead of running from it. But we're here, right now. Are you willing to take that step with us? My heart thrummed in my chest, each pulse urging him to make this choice for himself and for us. With that invitation lingering in the air, I saw the moment shift, fear paling against the burgeoning hope. In that breathless silence, I sensed someone behind me, the agency's agents positioning themselves closer, ready to act if chaos erupted again, yet also waiting for the moment when our words might yield a different outcome. Clara, he said her name, hesitation thickening the space between them, and it hit me, a name that carried depth, a name that was tangled in the hopes I had fought to reclaim. As he clenched his jaw, I could see the struggle reflected in his face, the shadow that fell over his heart replacing the defiant resolve. Suddenly, he seemed weary, heavy with burdens we had only begun to explore. You think understanding will fix everything? He choked out, voice trembling under the weight of realization. That I deserve empathy? Yes, Clara breathed, determination surging in her chest. Because it's what I've needed too. We deserve to step away from the cycles of pain we've each endured. I want that for us all. And in that moment, as uncertainty loomed beneath the storm just outside the door, I realized what we had done together. We had unleashed the possibility of redemption by simply choosing to brave each other's pasts, and that energy, that relentless spark ignited the darkness swirling like hungry shadows. But as the intruder took a step back, indecision flickering across his features, a sudden loud crash broke through the stillness, another threat barreling through the doorway. A new wave of chaos erupted, drawing the attention away as the door slammed open anew. More figures poured into the room, armed and fierce, pushing into our fragile moment of unity. Clara. We're here to take you. One of the newcomers shouted, their urgency snapping us back to the harsh reality pressing in all around us. The intruder's eyes locked onto the agents, fury reigniting behind their promises of safety. You sent people after me? He hissed, the vulnerability slamming back into a wall of defiance as he whipped around to face Clara and me. This is your doing. But through all the tumult, I caught Lucy's soft gasp, realizing she had stepped closer to Clara, instinctively sheltering her cousin from the storm. In that fleeting moment, where so much was still wrought with uncertainty, I understood that despite our chaotic past, family ties could add strength within our fabric. Feeling support unfurling between us, I glanced at my sister. Clara, make your choice now. Move towards the light. With a freedom I hadn't anticipated, the intruder halted his approach, emotions shifting once more as uncertainty hung in the air like the tremors of an earthquake. Don't let fear dictate your actions anymore. You've got a choice, I implored, heart racing in tandem with the storm brewing within. We can walk into tomorrow as a family or remain shackled to the darkness. His breath caught, and time was suspended, until he slowly raised his hands in surrender, a hesitant offering of peace amidst unrelenting chaos. With each passing breath, the possibility of forgiveness swirled into existence, blossoming into something beautiful for all of us who had walked so far into darkness, yet still had the chance to light the way home. The air became electric, reverberating with unspoken potential as our pasts intertwined, anger transforming into empathy, vulnerability, replacing fear. But standing in that fragile moment of acceptance, our hearts echoed the storm raging outside, a gentle but firm reminder that understanding could spark reformation for each of us anew. And amidst the unfolding clarity and resonant past converging in stunning harmony, I looked back at Clara, who was finally ready to embrace her truth with open arms. That I and the flickering glow. As both sides hesitated, we stood together, stronger than the chaos breaching the door, stronger than the waves of shadow rippling through our hearts. For in that moment of stillness, we had awakened to the heart of reality. Accepting our past wasn't an end, it was the courageous beginning of a story made anew, stitching fragments of hope toward radiant futures. This was our moment of reckoning. This was our chance at forgiveness. And together, amidst the storm raging on the horizon, our hearts aligned as one whisper echoed through the depths of my being. We've got this.